So today I want to broach the topic of conflict resolution for whole Bible believers, and this is absolutely 100% inspired by a video that I just watched yesterday from the Life podcast, and it is done by Mallory Pollock. She was invited onto the podcast to talk as a conflict resolution coach, and also as somebody who is Torah observant. Now, I will make the statement here, I don't call myself Torah observant per se, even though I do observe all of the Torah commands as best as I'm able to. I like to call myself a whole Bible believer just because I feel that that fits better. I don't necessarily align with all of the Torah observant Hebrew roots movement. I think that there's some things that I can't quite agree on, but I am a whole Bible believer. So just putting it out there. Okay, so let's go through some of this discussion around conflict resolution, which I think is something that if you are a whole Bible believer and you do believe that the commands of Yah are for today, it's something that comes up a lot in discussion with our loved ones, our friends, our family, where we kind of hit heads, we bump heads, we don't necessarily have points that we agree on, and that can lead to heated discussions and debates that can result in the breakdown of a relationship. And obviously, that's not something that we want. That's not something that we desire. How do we meet each other at a point that we can still have a good relationship and move forward in discussions while perhaps still disagreeing with each other? So I want to bring us to the Proverbs, first of all, because I think that looking at scripture that talks about strife and conflict is important to setting the foundation. So Proverbs 15:1 tells us that a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So obviously we should be people who are prone to gentleness. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. We're also told a hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but the slow to anger calms a dispute in Proverbs 15:18. So we're supposed to have fruit of patience, which is also a fruit of the Spirit. And then Proverbs 28:25, which says, an arrogant man stirs up strife, but he who trusts in the Lord will prosper. And so this is definitely an aspect of humility that we're called to have. Now, all of this discussion around conflict resolution is based on the core Torah principle that Yeshua brings up as being one of the, two most important Torah principles that dictate the rest of Torah, and that is from Leviticus 19:18, where we are told that you shall not take vengeance nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. And so this is a direct command to Yah's people that we are to treat one another with kindness, with empathy, with love and compassion, to love one another as we would love ourselves, right? Do unto others as you would have done unto you, the golden rule principle. It's all based off of this one particular core Torah component. Now, this Torah principle gets highlighted multiple times throughout the New Testament, and I've just pulled a couple verses of New Testament wisdom for us to refresh our minds on. James 1:19, we're told, this you know, my beloved brethren, but everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And I think that should be something that we all pay attention to when we enter into perhaps high-stakes conversations or heated discussions about our beliefs and our principles and values that we hold dear to us. Matthew 5:9, Yeshua tells us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Hebrews 12:14 tells us, pursue peace with all men and the sanctification without which no one will see the Lord. Romans 12:18, if possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. And finally, Philippians 2:4 tells us, do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. So when we enter into a perhaps difficult conversation with somebody regarding our beliefs, we are to look out for their interests, not merely our personal interests, but we are to approach this as servant-hearted people. Okay, and then finally, James 4:1-6. Honestly, James is an amazing letter to read, especially James 3 regarding the power of the tongue. But let me read this. It says, what is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. You're envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. You adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you think that the Scripture speaks with no purpose? He jealously desires the Spirit with which he is made to dwell in us, but he gives a greater grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So, of course, we are supposed to approach conversations with gentleness, with humility, humbling ourselves, and ensuring that we're not letting our flesh rule and dictate all of the conversation that's happening. And honestly, it can be so easy to fall into the flesh and to allow it to rule what is going on, especially when, you're maybe feeling misheard, misunderstood, and so forth. Okay, so I want to get into 5 points that Mallory brings up, and she actually summarized this on her Instagram page, and I love it. Please go check it out. Again, Mallory Pollock on Instagram. And she's got, I'll link it down below for you guys, but she's got some great resources there as well, and on her website too. So here's our 5 points, and we're going to go through them one by one when it comes to conflict resolution. And this applies to any kind of conflict, honestly, but the point of this video is to highlight conflict when it comes to expressing our beliefs as whole Bible believers. So number 1, super beautiful, the childhood home theory. And this is the concept of our belief systems being like our house, right? When you share your belief system with somebody, when you share the things that you value in life, it's like you're inviting them inside your home to look at how you've decorated the place, what type of furniture you have, the wallpaper that you have, the food that you've supplied for the people who are living in that home. And it is a place where you are supposed to feel safe and comfortable and able to kind of like let your hair down and enjoy fellowship with other people who have come into your home. When we start looking at somebody and their belief system and we want to change their mind, it's like we're asking for them to remodel their childhood home. We can't approach that with a sledgehammer kind of mentality, right? Because their beliefs are so dear and near to their heart. It's been perhaps something that they've built up over a long period of time, or they've inherited from family members. And so that stuff doesn't get torn down in one day. It really doesn't. Like when you come to an understanding of a whole Bible belief perspective of Scripture, or as some might call it, a Torah observant perspective of Scripture, it doesn't happen overnight. Didn't happen overnight for me, doesn't happen overnight for any of the people that I've talked to. It takes time over the years of studying the Word. So we have to garner trust with individuals that we go and talk to about these things. We have to trust and be invited into their home. And if you're going to go around, ripping down their furniture and their pictures and their wallpaper and saying, this is ugly, you need to change it, they're not going to be super keen on allowing you in again, and they're probably going to want to kick you out. So we have to approach these conversations with a gentleness and be thankful that they've even invited us in to take a look at what is going on. And so that is point number 1. Okay, point number 2 here is mutual purpose. When we enter into conversation with somebody, we are to approach it with a collaborative lens. And it really ties in with point number 5 as well. But we want to find shared goals that we have as believers when we're talking with other believers about their faith. Our shared goal is to glorify our Creator. It is to bring honor and glory to His name. It is to tell people about the gospel and make disciples. These are shared goals, and we have to find points that we can enter that conversation in with an agreement on and say, hey, we're not enemies here. We are coming out of this as people who love the Lord, as brothers and sisters in Messiah, and approach it from that perspective. Next, super important, is lead by example. If you want somebody to consider changing their viewpoint of Scripture or their beliefs, we have to be open-minded to understand that we can also learn from conversation. And so we can invite them to, assess our belief system and perhaps even ask them, what are some things that you would like for me to consider from your perspective that perhaps I should be changing about how I'm approaching things. Even if you're not willing to change the way that you're viewing things, opening that conversation up, giving them a sense of, you are also equally valued here is important, right? Lead by example. Show them how you would like them to respond to you by demonstrating that in your own walk and your own life. Okay. Number 4, agree before disagreeing. And it kind of, again, ties back into that concept of mutual purpose. I point out the things that you like about what they're doing and things that you agree on and that you support, and make that a positive foundation that your conversation can go off of, right? It makes people feel less defensive if you come into a conversation where you're disagreeing with them, they're going to want to have to put the walls up, right? Like they're going to want to defend what they believe in. And if you agree before going into the points that you don't agree on, and you lay that foundation, it helps build trust. And then finally is this concept of teamwork mentality. We're supposed to look at these people that we're talking to, our parents, our siblings, our friends, our fellow community individuals in our churches and stuff, fellow believers. We are to look at them as teammates, as conversational partners, not as an adversary or a target or somebody who's an enemy, right? Unless they're like completely, trying to tell people a false way of salvation or a false gospel, then that becomes a little bit different when you're dealing with a wolf in sheep's clothing. But when you are collaborating with somebody who has similar purpose, similar desires to see the gospel furthered, similar goals to glorify the Father, then we need to start seeing them as conversational partners rather than looking at them as a target for us to kind of, tear down things. But I love her point about the mutual purpose of the childhood home theory. I think that is super important in getting across the points that we desire as whole Bible believers. So it all comes back to this Torah principle of not taking vengeance, not bearing a grudge, but loving our neighbor as ourselves. Anyways, that's kind of the summary that I took away from listening to this podcast with Mallory and the Life podcast. I highly recommend, go check it out. Go take a look at her Instagram account, and let us do better about desiring to resolve conflict rather than create and generate conflict, of desiring to treat others better than ourselves and to humble ourselves when we enter into a conversation so that we can perhaps have a better chance of preserving that relationship over time for the glory of God, right? We are called to be peacemakers. Pursue peace with all men. If so possible, as far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. And Yeshua clearly tells us that the peacemakers are blessed. They will be called sons of God. And so this is something that we should prioritize in our lives. Opening up those conversations and giving people a chance to have space to be heard without us attacking and going after them, and ultimately living by example. The best thing that we can do is show people the love of Yah, and approach those conversations from the perspective of we just want to serve. We want to serve and love. Now, obviously, it's important to have healthy boundaries, and when those boundaries get disrespected, then, certain steps need to be taken. But for the sake of this conversation, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to kind of point this out to folks and encourage you to look at your conversations from a collaborative perspective. Anyhow, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will chat with you later. Shalom, folks.